everyone. Thank you so much for jumping onto team training tonight. My name is Crystal, if you haven't met me before, and I am excited. I'm excited to do this training because it's almost like we're pulling it back, getting right back to the roots of what we need to do. And I know at this point of the year, sometimes we can get a bit tired and life can get a bit crazy, and sometimes you open your laptop and you're just staring at it. And so tonight I really wanted just to talk about time management, helping you find your time, because we are about hidden moments in this business, especially when we first get started. And what we can do once we know we've got those hidden moments, and making sure that we're being productive, we are building a business and being successful. So from the get-go, I really want us to get into an activity. If you haven't already, or maybe you've been in the business for a while, you may have come across a training from one of our amazing upline leaders that takes you through a task of, seeing your time written out on a piece of paper. I'm a paper person, so I have diaries, I have whiteboards, I have all of that. If you are a digital person, that's okay too. If you have your phone and you're all about getting into your calendars, that's okay too. But find what's going to work, because if you don't write it down, it tends to go on the wayside and things don't get done. And hands up here, who's the automatic response person that says, I've been busy? And then, but really, have you been busy? You just haven't really prioritized it. Like 9 times out of 10, we say that we're busy, and some things are keeping us, in a moment where we're being proactive, but often we're just not prioritizing our day. And I remember Anthony saying and suggesting at one time that, if you have a whole day to do one of the paying activities, you'll take all day to do it. So let's really work on being smart with our time, figuring out our day, and let's do it in real time. Like, let's look at your tomorrow. So if you have, there's a few different things that you can have. If you've got a piece of paper, I got this from Typo. I'm just trying to find a blank page. It does all of the days of the week. You can obviously itemize it down the side in half-an-hour increments from the time you wake up to the time you go to bed. I have used that before. I have a diary that I actually, again, works in half-an-hour increments. So you're going to want to use some pens and some highlighters, figure out what's going to work for you, but we're about to fill it out. And for the purpose of this training, I'm trying to do it on a bit of a whiteboard for you. And I'm just going to prompt you. So let's get started. What I really want you to have your diary out, and I want you to write the time that you wake up. So for me, we're working on a 6 a.m. start. That's what I do. What time do you wake up? I want you to start your first time at that, and then going down in half an hour increments, working till, if you're staying awake, till 9 o'clock at night, or 8:30, or 10, whatever that may be. So we're really just going to pop that down. And the next thing you're going to think about is, all right, what's our non-negotiable here? Now, I'm getting back into work mode. When I first started this business, I had a few jobs. So for a lot of us getting started, that is a non-negotiable. That's actually getting us paid right now. And we have to show up. So we're going to put down our JOB. And at what time does your JOB start? Is that at 8 o'clock? Is that at 9? What time does your job start? And I want you to write that down. So for me, my job was at 9 in the morning. So that's what I got there. And it ran through, for me, it went till 2 o'clock. Yours might go till 5. But wherever the end point of your job is, I want you to allocate job. So mine's obviously pretty much off the screen. But I want you to put in job. And then whilst we're going along, if I go too fast, please let me know. If you have any questions on the way, please pop them in the chat and I'll try and cover it. But if your job pre or post has a commute time of around that half an hour or more, I really want you to write down commute in that point as well, so that you can keep track of where you are. Commute. Okay, and then I would love for you to pop in, on average, where your eating times are. So obviously, well, hopefully you are eating. We're proactive and healthy living, so we're, monitoring that. Google Calendar. See, I'm just not digital yet, but it's good. It's good to write it down. And so for me, from 7 o'clock, pretty much till 8, I'm mum life. For some of you, you might not be doing mum life, but in that increment of time, I'm getting myself breakfast, getting my partner organised, getting my son organised for school, and I'm being present for that. So I need to make sure that I allocate that time there to, I'm just going to put mum life, and that's where your first meal is. For me, at 12 o'clock till 12:30, I had a half an hour lunch break. Oops, 12 to 12:30, lunch. And then you'll go down the line and you'll pop your dinner. If you get a 10-minute tea break, you know, want to just pencil that in at that time. And then you might want to consider where is it that you fill up your cup? What are your values? And if that is going to the gym, or if you have sporting commitments, or if you are in mum life and you're taking your child to extracurricular activities, you'll need to pop that in, because that is a priority for you. So we're putting the big things in at the moment, and we're going to find our hidden moments. So find that and allocate that. Obviously, if there's a commute, you need to be mindful and you need to write commute in that half an hour increment. And then you also need to pop down how long your activity goes for. So if you're doing a class for an hour, or swimming for 45 minutes, or you know, whatever your commitment is, please pop that in. And for me, that was my miracle morning. It hasn't really changed too much, but that really is my 6 till 7. So I don't touch my phone, I'm not going on my laptop, I'm really committing to myself and filling up my cup, because if you don't fill up your own cup, how are you supposed to pour into others? And so Monday is, well, I'm doing it under Monday, miracle morning. And so for me, from 6 till 6:30, I do my affirmations, I'll scribe, do my visualizations, do some reading, but from 6:30 to 7, that's my exercise, and then I shut off, go straight into mum life. I head into a commute, which takes me to my job, and we go down the line. And now I think, unless there's anything else that you personally need to add into that, let's really figure out where we can do bib time. So obviously this is relatable to me, so have a look at what your time allows for. I don't have a different colored pen, I've used them all. Let's use green. Okay, so for Miracle Morning, there is no time for technology. For mum life, I'm present. For my commute, I can definitely, it's over half an hour for me, so my commute, I can definitely do bib training. Obviously, if you're in the car with someone or with your children, then you need to be present, and that's okay. But if they're to their own devices, please take full advantage of tapping into a training. So that's what I did when I was doing my commute. Now, when you get to the job, obviously everything's switched up. You are present for your job, otherwise you're going to get fired. And if you can be sneaky, well, that's up to you. But we really need to focus on our job. So if you get a 10-minute tea break, then, you know, by all means, you're going to have your rice cakes and avocado, and you might actually open up and see who has liked your post, and you might communicate. But for me, I'm going straight to my lunch break. So for 15 minutes, I'm being mindful of eating, because sometimes when we multitask, it really doesn't end well. So for 15 minutes, I'm eating, but for the other 15 minutes, I'm doing bib life. And that might be the same for you. If you get an hour lunch break, then maybe half an hour you're going to allocate to bib life. So just pop that down on your calendar. So when I finished my job, so obviously back being present in your job once you get back from lunch, when I got to 2 o'clock, it was ready for the commute back to school pickup. But on that commute, I plugged back into a training in the car. I picked up my child, but I knew from pretty much from 2:30 till 4, I was back to mum life. So I was present. So you really need to make sure that I feel like if you don't prioritize around the people that you are around, they're going to nag at you, or you're going to get interrupted and distracted. So if you need to be present for a certain amount of time, then do that, but make sure it's not just fluffing around. So for me, by 4:30, from 3, pretty much till 4, I'd finished mum life. My son was out playing. My partner hadn't come home yet. And so for me, from 4 till 5:30, I was able to do bib life. So there was another hour and a half to work with. And then once 5:30 hit, it was shower, it was dinner prep. And that's where you should have already popped in your meals. That's when you're eating, or maybe if you finished at say 5 p.m. or 6 p.m. and you're on the commute on a train. I don't know how your scenario works, but this is just really plugging into where bib sits for you. And then for me, I was present till about 7:30. My son went to bed. I had some family time. And then after 7:30, that's when I tapped into bib time. I did an hour or 2 hours depending. And if you do have partners, please remember that they are there and they need love too. It's so easy for us to become obsessed and almost want to check our devices or post again or see what's happening. And I really want you to be smart about allocating what's important and then figuring out your bib routine. So I'm just going to share my screen for a second if I can, because I just did a little bit of an example just for the purpose of tonight's training. And so I know it might look a little bit crazy, but hopefully your diary looks like this. Or when I did my example with this one, I know it looks like a whole heap of craziness, but my hot pink was based in business and I was able to see where my 30 minutes, where my hour, where my 10 minutes was. And so here you can see I've got 15 minutes of bib time, just we're working on, say, Monday here, so my lunch break. Then I have an hour here of babes in business time. So when I think of babes in business time, I'm thinking high-paying activities. I'm not thinking personal development. For me, personal development is an extra, and whilst that is really positive to add into your day because you'll work smarter, you'll learn something, you'll implement for better business success, sometimes we can get caught up in just listening to trainings and that's not going to get us paid. So just be mindful of how much personal development, etc., that you're doing. So here is my hour. Now I go family swimming training, I'm back to mum life and dinner, and then I go into partner time. So for this example, you can see that I only have an hour and 15 minutes to work on babes in business on the Monday. On Tuesday, similar, I have some board training with my son, dinner. I have allocated the non-negotiable newbies and leadership training. Again, that's just for my personal development and skills, not so much allocating the 4 actual activities that are higher paying. And so that's another hour and 15. I've got a little bit more on Wednesday. Thursday is an hour and 45. And you can sort of start to see where you've allocated that time and you're going to work smart. So I know for me, I don't know if it's happened to you, but I do get caught up in notifications and alerts and the little red bubbles, and my phone will vibrate and I'll want to check it. And I want to see after I post who's liked it. And sometimes it's very easy to get stuck in the scroll hole. I'm been in the business over 2 years now, and that still happens to me, getting in the scroll hole. But you just have to come back to your plan and then your planner and work really smart with that. So I hope that was of value, sharing that. Like, obviously it was quite quick and that's just one day. And when it comes to the weekends, you might be a bit more flexible with your time. But I think what the point I'm trying to make is really work out what you have to do, what are your commitments, and put that down on paper and then find those hidden moments. And you'll be quite surprised at what you have to allocate. And then sometimes you'll reflect on not really getting much done, that you're really busy, but sometimes we just didn't use the time effectively. And so I'd really love to jump into a little bit of a DMO. So my DMO or your uplines DMO, maybe even a sidelines DMO, is not always going to work for you. Your times are different, you know, pending the follow-up calls you may have booked, or what's actually happening with your 3-way conversations. It's not going to be always the same or aligning with those around you. So I did a little bit of a thing here just talking about the high paying activities. So we just came off our newbies training. We know them, we've heard them, but where are you implementing them? So on Monday, I have an hour and 15 minutes, and pretty much I have 5 MFA sections. So if you haven't heard of MFA before, that means massive freaking action. So you're really utilizing that time with instruction. Some of us don't know, like we've got tools, but we're not sure how to use them. And an MFA allows you to have that direction. So we can type in Babes in Business, MFA, or in Dream Team, type MFA. There's an examples folder. Really utilize that for the direction. So when it comes to 12:15 at my lunch break, I can tap into a 15-minute MFA and do the job. Same comes down to my 4:30 to 5, my 4 till 5, which is 4 MFAs. Like, could you imagine the work that you could do if you actually allocated significant activity for an optimal result? So with here, I've got expand our network. Well, there's 15 minutes. So set a timer. If I'm starting at 4 o'clock, set the timer, 15 minutes, expand my network. I'm adding friends. I'm following people. I'm starting to build on that. And I don't sway. I don't do anything else. And I don't let anyone interrupt that time. Again, the buzzer goes off. What am I doing next? Okay, I'm starting to share. And then the next 15 minutes, buzzer goes off. I'm inviting. I'm following up. And if you have 15 minutes, you can do a 15-minute training. But for some of us, if you're working at a 30-minute time frame every day, if your work day is so full that you get to the night and you only have half an hour, well, realistically, you're not going to fit a training in a breakdown. So for half an hour and 4 of these activities, you're going to have 7 minutes to do each activity. So if you're going to expand your network in 7 minutes, who says you can't still reach out to 3 to 5 to 10 people in that time when you are driven and purposeful? Coming back to last week's training where Lauren went over Fraser Brooks' DMO, I think it really just elaborates on how simple a DMO can be. We don't need to pretty it up. It doesn't need to be fancy. It just needs to give you some basic principles to move through your day each time. So when Fraser spoke on, or when Lauren elaborated on connecting and expanding your network, that's exactly what you're going to do in your 15 minutes or half an hour, depending how many hours you got. The content, so really sharing a couple of posts doesn't even take 15 minutes because you've got the 60 and 60, which gives you the idea, which gives you a little bit of a foundation to understand what to post. And, you know, it's done. You're ready to go into the next activity. Comment, relationship build, be smart with that. You're already in your groups, or you're, you know, already got that in the Instagram folder where you can find that person. Like, you're working smart. You're communicating with more people, so follow-ups maybe in that time, and inviting people. If you're not inviting people, as you heard Fleur say before, no one knows what you're up to, so let's really pop the question out there. And in 15 minutes, imagine if you just were bold, counted back from 5 and just went, I'm going to ask them, and went bang, 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 bang. Productivity is just going to go through the roof. So I'm going to stop my share there because I don't know what's happening in the chat. Let's see, some newbies didn't know what MFAs are. Can you explain how they work? Yeah, so you may have already looked at it, or somebody might have answered that already, but I will elaborate on an MFA. So I have tried to implement and encourage that culture within my growing organization, and I know that we have tapped on it with Dream Team and Babes in Business. But what it is 3 activities of 5-minute increments of doing something like, for the next 5 minutes, you're going to go into your active lists on Facebook and you're going to say, hey, happy Wednesday. Hope you're having a wonderful day. What have you been up to this week? And you're just going to create conversation in that 5-minute time slot. And then the next 5 minutes might head over to Instagram and you're going to search a hashtag and you're going to go through and start following some people in that 5-minute time slot only. No other distraction. You're just keeping it to that instruction. And then the last one goes as it goes. And so a lot of them have been recorded, or some of them have been live. So as I said, you can go to the search bar in Babes in Business, type in MFA, and that will just take you to a whole list of different options. And it might just freshen up your outlook on how to approach Facebook, Instagram, or any other social platforms. What else? Oh, Jessica with your potty mouth is so funny. Audiobooks, yeah, audiobooks are great. Keeping in mind though, ladies, like, it's so easy just to listen to an audiobook, but you have to implement what you're learning. In that hour, do you just work on your own business or help your team as well with calls? That's a cool question. So I have found in the time that I've evolved in this business that when, as I built myself to SDVF and started to build an income, I could cut down time of my other jobs that I was doing. And so when I created more time, because let's face it, we all have 24 hours, so we're not going to be able to gain it. There's no secret sauce that it just automatically comes for you. You have to create it. And that's what happened to me. So I evolved as my income and everything like that. So obviously with team calls and things like that, I had more time. So that was outside of that hour that I created. That hour that I'm sort of talking about, or even just creating for this, is for you to work on your business. You are obviously helping another, but it's so easy to go into management mode and jump into your inbox and start answering stuff, when realistically we all have the same resources and same tools. And if a teamie really needs an answer straight away, they can type it into the bib training group, and then there's lots of answers and support there. So let's see, anybody else? Look forward to my commute. I'm getting conflicting messages. Some training says 5 people a day. Is just have a conversation with people to get used to it. Don't bombard them with stuff, and make sure you're inviting. Yeah, sure. So initially when you get started, it's all very exciting. You're doing a launch post, so it's, you know, there, it's on your social media. You're reaching out to your warm market. It's your friends and your family. So I never looked at it initially as a bombard. I was very excited about this opportunity, and I really saw it for what it was, and I knew I could help people. And so when I reached out to my family and friends, that was a pretty much direct ask, and they were all on board because they want to support you. And then as I grew, like obviously adding a few more friends and developing relationships, sure, it does take time to talk to 5 people a day, but other people you have already created a relationship with, or you're asking quality questions. So there should always be an evolving relationship. It shouldn't come to the point where you're just saying hey, they say hey, and there's crickets. So you don't need to bombard people. If people aren't conversing with you, and you've asked them cool questions, or you feel like you relate to them and they're not relating back, then you're probably just spending a little bit too much of your time with the wrong person at this point. Does that make sense? I hope I sort of answered that question. Well, I have a question for you. Is there anything that comes up in your day that is like stopping you from doing Babes in Business, or you know, you do say you don't have enough time, or you have X amount of time, what should you do? Is there any questions that you'd like to throw out at me? Or maybe not. It's just crazy how, you know, dopamine is just released when we see all of these cool things happening on our social media. And for me, it's been really a turning point, I'd say, the second half of this year, realizing how addicted and how guilty I would feel if I was not on my phone or not on my laptop. But they were open, but I wasn't always productive, or I would be like, well, who should I be talking to now? So this training tonight has also just reignited our purpose and what we should be doing on our social media, so that you don't get to the point of resenting it. Or if you're one of those people that are in a relationship where you don't have a supportive partner, you tend to spend more time on social media because you're excited, but you're not doing the high paying activities. And when they're asking you like, how are you going? And you feel like you're doing great, but your paycheck's not reflecting it, and all they're seeing is you on a screen for 8 hours a day, you know, we need to make some changes. Okay, oh, cool. Yeah, definitely a show of hands. I can't see everyone, but a show of hands who actually sticks to a DMO. Like last week's training was really cool, but who actually has a DMO on paper that they're every day religiously writing down, and even keeping track. If you don't track or don't measure, it doesn't grow. I can't even see hands. 5 C's have changed my life. Sure has. My baby is a huge distraction. Yeah, kids definitely are an excuse or your fuel. And look, my son's in the other room on his iPad feeling like the worst parent ever for the next hour while I do this training. But that's just the negotiation you have. With a baby, a little bit trickier, but you know, hopefully they have the nap time or they have some sort of cycle, or if it's that night time, if you have no time in the day and you have to get to the night and that's when they're down, then put 2 hours. I've heard so many mama speakers that are NMDs all over the globe that really just did all of their business at night. Guilty of procrastination. Oh my gosh, that's a big one. Who else is procrastinating? Doesn't get you paid. You're in your head. I heard on a training the other day with Linda, the more you know, the slower you go. And it made so much sense to me, because when we first get started, it's almost ignorance on fire. We have 5 steps. We get in, we talk to a few people, you know, we have our family jump on board, maybe even a family member or friend as a teamie, and it seems to be rocking. And then we get to milestone 2, and then we're in the 1660, and then we see a training, and then we see that there's a 6-week shred, and we've got information everywhere. And then we just start to absorb the information, but we forget and we don't come back to our high five paying activity. So you really have to be aware of that. And yeah, procrastination, unfortunately, that's just the thief of all your joy. How do you stop the conversation for the next day? Well, I don't tend to stop the conversation. I think sometimes what tends to happen when you are fairly new is we're on the computer or our phones all the time, so we're ready to keep just being on there. But like show of hands, has like people ignored you or not even read it, and you're like, where did you go? What happened to you? It's because they're not really there. They're not doing this, so they're on their social media in the scroll hole. That they're just, you know, happy with that, where we're taking this as a business. So if you choose to stop point, if your 15 minutes is up and you've finished your follow-ups or whatever, or there's a few left and you need to do that the next day, then that's okay. There's no such thing as a juice plus emergency. The person will still be there the next day to chat to. I might have to scroll back up. Oops, I've gone too far. Scroll holes, trap. Definitely been talking to the wrong people. My study takes up a lot of my time. Yeah, well, and that might be your priority right now. And that could be, you know, you got classes from 7 till 9 and then 10 till 12. I don't really know how uni works. I got to do my study from home. But that's fine. That's something that you have to do. You pop that on your diary, and then you find the 15-minute block that you can do this business. It's where we all started, and then you finish uni for a certain period of time over Christmas or whatever, and your time just sort of changes a little. I haven't done my own testimonial yet. How long before you start would you recommend to do one? Oh, if you have a testimonial, you should just do it. Do it right now. Share it with your upline. Obviously, they can show you or share with you how to do your 2-minute testimonial. But if you have a testimonial, Amber, and you wish to share that with the world, jump in the preview group and you can type it up. I definitely suggest speaking it out. If you are able to speak out your own testimonial, your conversations flow so much better because you're just being true and sharing your story. And one of our high-paying activities is sharing. So don't wait. If you have a testimonial or a biz story, then let's rock it. Yeah, so for a DMO, definitely for a visual, ticking it off. Like if you want to speak to 5 people and you've spoken to them and they've actually conversed, you're writing them down or you've ticked that box. If you've followed up for the day, you tick that box. Really measure and tracking it. I get caught up in my replies. Again, you can get stuck in your inbox for hours, and you know, replying is great, and at some point that conversation will lead to you know, asking them an amazing question to be part of this, but you can't follow up all day. You can't spend time following up. You've really got to break up. I'm pretty sure there's a really cool sheet that Lauren did that breaks up 25% of what you should be doing each day, which is similar to what I've really outlined more in a visual for you. So please set the timer. Once you're in your inbox doing replies to conversations, great. And then you need to get out. What about on the days when you reach out to 100 people but no one replies and they see your message? I'll talk to another 100 people. Don't stare and wait. You just keep going. And if you don't know another 100 people, you need to start creating more friendships. And then you'll start having a new lot of people. They will come back to you. They will. Turning off the notifications. One thing I did want to say, and I don't do it because I guess I have a little bit more time freedom, so I post at the time, but people pre-post. So in Instagram, you can do your drafts. Again, I'm not amazing at that, but the drafts are there, so you can just not think about it and post it up. I did used to use Hootsuite, and it was automated, so I would spend my Sunday for a couple of hours. I've got the 60 and 60 there, so I would organize my posts, and then obviously Hootsuite would post it out. If you manage a group, you can do that as well. So I don't know if that's of benefit to you, if you are that time poor on your posting schedule. What else do I need to say? Do you find doing certain parts of your DMO, reach out messages to potentials, better to do at certain times of the day? People are more likely to reply at night during bursts. Yeah, versus during the day, for sure. So more early mornings and of an evenings, depending where your avatar is at, like mamas might be more available through the day, but, you know, people that love like exercise like myself and things, we're up early, you know, we might be looking at posts at that point of the day. So you need to be mindful of that. But for me, when I'm creating conversations, 9 times out of 10, I just go straight to the active list because those people are there. They're ready to rock. They're ready to talk. And yeah, so, and overnight, and I think that's why it's quite successful when it comes to business building overnight, because everybody does have a day job and they usually are in the wind down, having a wine while they're cooking dinner, and then they sit on the couch and they start scrolling. So yeah, of an evening definitely works. But if you don't have that time available, either what can you reschedule, or let's get into our active list. Okay, I think I've covered all the questions. I'm really glad that we did a Q&A. I really wanted it to be super interactive and real talk. I did see when I was really considering what message I would put out tonight, and I read this thing, and it basically said one of the side effects of constant multitasking, which we tend to do. I'll grab my phone, I'll go make the kids dinner, I'll come sit back down, now I have to wash the dishes or whatever you're doing. And constantly being busy can be the lack of follow through and completion of the actual task. And you're not really measuring how successful you've been. So loose ends tends to lead you to frustration, procrastination, and no fulfillment in the work that you're actually doing because you're not seeing the results. So I just really hope that from tonight's training you start to streamline your life, you understand what your values are and prioritize your values. You need to make sure that, you know, if you are studying or you do have a job, you have to be present. We get that, but you're not at a job from 12, like early morning till late at night, 6 till 6, or if you are, then you have to do a night bib time. So really just pop the big items down and then find those hidden ones. And as you've seen, Shani, full-time nursing, traveling the world now, she evolved with that. Lauren utilized her time, you know, commuting to really do this business, build her belief, plug into trainings, high-paying activities in the middle of the day at lunch and then at night. Now she does this full-time. Same with myself. We have evolved over time. We definitely have started where you started, and we know what it's like to work in 15 minutes or half an hour blocks. And it's sometimes frustrating, but choose your hard. I don't want to commute anymore. I don't want to do my JOB anymore. I don't want to drop my kids off at school. So yeah, really stick to your timeline. I think that's really it. I'm not seeing any more questions. So maybe we'll just keep it short and sharp for tonight. That's the point with our time, right? And maybe if you have 20 more minutes, which you might have allocated for team training, you'll go through the rest of your week and really highlight what you have available, and yeah, really do this business strong and end November more organized than you've ever been. So I might just press stop.